So, welcome back to another episode of Chaddy Issues. And Mr. Braiden Tonks, I'm generally excited to have you here today because it's been a while in the making and we've had a couple of hiccups on the way, but we're here today and there's no better present like the presence here today. Chaddy Issues is a place where we have real conversations about life, the hard parts we don't always talk about, and what it actually takes to turn things around. I'm Leb Kelly from Chaddy Issues, joined with a great friend of mine, John Camilleri, known as Jonesy. And today's episode is a raw and honest one. I'm joined by Braiden Tonks from Tonksy Media, but this conversation goes far beyond business or media today. We're diving into Braiden's personal journey, growing up in Tasmania, which is a beautiful part of the world, by the way, in a challenging environment, navigating addiction, crime, and the consequences that came with that lifestyle. We also talk about relationships, becoming a father, which is the best gift in the world for any man wanting to step up and step into his true masculinity, and the realities of co-parenting when things don't go to plan, including his experience with parental alienation and the family law court system. This episode touches on some heavy topics, but is also about growth, accountability, and what it looks like to try and move forward when the past is still very much part of your present. If you're listening, just know this conversation is about understanding, not judgment, and let's get into it. And before we actually get into it, I had a thought yesterday that it's not okay to, the experts said it's not okay to smack your little one on the bum, but it's okay if you alienate the parent from their child. Do you like that one? We'll get stuck into that very shortly, but that just came to me yesterday.
Load of shit.
Love it. Tonksy, how are you today, brother?
I'm very well, mate. Lovely to be a part of this podcast and yeah, I guess shed some light on my current situation. Obviously, I'm still in the middle of a very serious lawsuit, so let's just navigate our way around without getting ourselves in trouble, eh?
Join the club, and together, this is, we workshop, we try to get, help put in our 5 cents worth, and no two stories are the same, but when the intention is right, together we can get far.
100%.
A random question, an important one. Who was Braiden Tonks growing up in Tasmania, and then who is Braiden Tonks now, or most importantly, who is Braiden Tonks trying to be and what wants to be?
Braiden Tonks, growing up in Tasmania. Look, mate, I haven't actually been asked that question exactly like that, but if I think back, mate, I was a scared little boy. At heart, I had a very violent old man. When I say violent, not so much violent towards us as a family as such, but he had a fucking heavy reputation as a violent man throughout southern Tassie. He was, put it this way, you could put him together. He was barred from most pubs around southern Tassie just for his whether he was in trouble there or whether it just his reputation just carried such a heavy such a heavy thing. He was loved by a lot of people. He was hated by a lot of people, but he was also feared by a lot of people. So mate, I'm the eldest of 4. There's me, then a sister 2 years under me, and then a brother 2 years under her, and then there was a massive gap where my mum and dad, we're all to the same mum and dad, mind you, but mum and dad had split and were still sort of seeing each other over a couple of years, and then funny enough, mum fell pregnant again with our little baby sister Tali. She's 21 now, but yeah, so I was born into a pretty sort of, my parents were only teenagers when I was born, dad being 16, mum 19, so I look back now and I think, like, they were fucking kids, they were kids trying to navigate their own past traumas, which I will touch on shortly, but, they both witnessed some horrific things as young teenagers themselves, kids, which I never really look into as much as far as their parenting was towards us kids, let me just cut it short. My old boy, I think he was around the age of 5, 5 or 7, you know, and him and his older brother were, and this is actually a full chapter on this in my book, but he, you know, there was, the neighbours were arguing that they come from my old boy grew up in a pretty rough suburb, north of Hobart there in Tassie, by the name of New Norfolk. It's known for breeding tough families, you know. He was between the age of 5 and 7. Don't quote me, he was around about that age, but his neighbours were arguing, you know, having a bit of a domestic, and him and his older brother, my Uncle Rob, God bless his soul, he's not here with us anymore, but they've sort of, you know, as kids do, jumping up on the fence, having a bit of a sticky beak, and watch the old fella walk out. The way Dad describes it was an old Kingswood, Holden Kingswood, you know, and he's gone around to the boot of the car and undone the boot and pulled out a shotgun and blew his head off right there in front of me Dad as a kid, you know. So that sort of sheds a little bit of light on the trauma that Dad come from. But Mum, the similar thing. She was, I think, around the age of 16, you know, and her biological father can rot in fucking hell. I've never met him in my life, but the stories I've heard of that man is horrendous, you know. Like, you know, my mum's the middle of 3 daughters, all to this maggot, and you know, my mum's elder sister was raped by him and whatnot, you know, and did a lot of jail time over it. But so, you know, from a young age, my mum was raised by her stepfather, Peter Cook. He was a police officer. And yeah, when she was around the age of 16, she's come home with one of her friends, and you know, you could see him sort of sitting in the driver's seat in the laneway, in the driveway in his car, and sort of she's gone up to the window to say, you know, how are you, Dad, sort of thing, and he'd done the same thing, whoosh, blown his fucking head off. So my mum witnessed that right in front of her eyes, you know, not him doing it as such, but the aftermath. So that just sheds a little bit of light on, you know, 2 young teenagers. I'm being their firstborn, both of them under the age of 20, both still living, you know, with their past traumas. I used to put a lot of blame on my parents for the way I turned out, you know, but like as I've written my book, I take myself back and I think, you know, they were only fucking kids when I was born. They had no idea, and now they've got this little human life that they've got to try and raise, and you know, the best they could, and they did, you know, they did. But obviously, along with, you know, the heavy reputation that Dad held, you know, he was pretty much not to be fucked with. You know, he's that sort of guy. It's just a whole bunch of undealt trauma at the end of the day, you know what I mean? But yeah, so as the years went on, you know, like there was, you know, DV orders and stuff put between Mum and Dad, and you know, there was a period of time there where us 4 kids weren't allowed to see Dad due to the orders. You know, there was a no contact thing, and me being the eldest.
Is he still around today, bro?
He is, bro. Yeah, he is. We're currently not on speaking terms at the moment, but I'm sure he'll watch this and get a bit of a fucking bit of an idea where I stand at the moment, anyway. But yeah, so he, you know, there was a period of time where we weren't seeing him, and I remember, and you know, me being his firstborn son, you know, every man wants a son as their first. Like, let's not bullshit. You know, I've got 3 daughters, so I haven't got a son yet, but it's every man's dream, you know, every father's dream. Yeah, so I remember I was working at this little, it's like a little complex. It's got your Woolworths and your reject shop and your, you know, cafe and this and that, just a little complex there in the suburb of Claremont, which is about 20 minutes north of Hobart, where I was raised, you know, Claremont boy through and through. Yeah, I remember I was working at this little cafe, just stacking the fridges, and I was seen out the corner of my eye. And by this stage, I hadn't seen or spoke to Dad for like, you know, 8 months or so at the time. I seen out the corner of my eye, I seen him come walking down towards with one of his mates, and my fucking heart sunk. You know, I'd been brainwashed to think, you know, you speak to your father, he'll go to jail. You know, like, So yeah, I remember we just like locked eyes the whole way as he walked past, and he just welled up. You know, he's just, you know, missing his kids. And it wasn't long after that, you know, I'm around the age of 12, 13 at this stage, you know, and when Dad left, mate, I was the man of the house, you know. Yeah, Dad's left, and sort of Mum went fucking downhill really bad on drugs, which ended up being a 20-year-long drug addiction herself, you know. I've
seen her online, Braiden. She's got beautiful energy, man.
Yeah. No, definitely. I'm I'm the only one out of us all that sort of look like Mum too, you know. The rest of them sort of look like Dad, but the rest of them got the blonde hair and the blue eyes like the old man, you know. But yeah, so I remember it wasn't long after seeing him, let's Claymont Village was this complex. Yeah, so it wasn't long after seeing him there, and I was like to think I was pretty talented on a BMX. I was always hitting the skate park and doing big tricks and this and that. And I was at the skate park one day, and one of his mates turned up, and he's like, "Get the fuck in the car, Braiden. We're going to see your dad. He's not well. You know, he's not well." Like, and I was like, "I can't. He'll go to jail." He says, "Get in the fucking car with me now. You're coming with me." Like, and we went down to Dad's, and let's just say we saved him from taking his own life that day.
Mate, seems to be a bit of a theme. Where do I start with this? I'll tell you what I will start with.
Wow.
You mentioned you're working on a book, and what that tells me is what you taught. Like, this is just a bad, you know, all that's a bad chapter of your life, but it's not the whole book. Yeah? The whole book is what you do now, the rest of the book, and it's all it is, brother.
Oh, yeah, we will get into it.
Yeah, it's just a bad chapter. Yeah, actually, you should hold yourself in high esteem, mate.
Yeah.
You know, I think I've mentioned to you before when we've spoken in private. I come from a loving home, brother. I had no clue about this shit. No clue. And then I end up finding myself in one of the most toxic homes you'll ever hear of. So for me, it gave me an insight. I no longer try to judge, and I understand, you know, about, you know, childhood trauma, early development, family, love, lack of love, all that sort of stuff. And you mentioned you're a scared little boy. How do you become a scared little boy when you have a violent dad? What made you scared of, if he wasn't violent towards you, what made you a scared little boy?
Just the violence overall, if that makes sense, you know. Like, look, mate, I ended up growing into being a perfect chip off his shoulder, you know. That violence bled into me.
That's where I was leading to, because I remember you mentioned that. So how did you get there?
Just idolising him, mate, you know. By the age of 15, you know, I developed, you know, puberty in that pretty early. I had a few whiskers and whatnot at the age of 15, 14, 15, and, you know, I'd be drinking in pubs with Dad. You know, he, by all means, he's wasn't and still isn't an alcoholic as such, but he's a binge drinker, you know. He loves a beer at the pub, and, you know, and yeah, so I found myself in pubs way underage, drinking with Dad, and then eventually punching on, and like brutal fights at that age with blokes his age. You know what I mean?
I'll make you laugh, Tonksy. I'll make you laugh. You'll love this, and it'll bring back a memory. You mentioned the whole puberty thing. So I love having girls, but like you said, I love having a son. They're both special. So my son was up until recently the most hairless guy you'll ever see. Now that and I hope he hears this, and will actually make a funny fucking snippet. I hope it does. So all of a sudden the other day he took his top off, and all of a sudden, do you remember Different Strokes, that show? Yeah. All I saw was Arnold and Willis under each armpit. It's like, fuck.
Yeah, mate, I remember those.
How did we get here?
I remember you know what I mean? The little strips up the side of the old fella downstairs too. Like,
you know, that's life, man. I'm gifted. And I'm blessed to see that, man. A lot of fathers don't see that. A lot of mothers don't see that, man. This is what I'm doing.
That's right.
Yeah, man.
Well, funny you say that, you know, being a father of daughters, you know, my eldest daughter, this is just jumping forward a bit. This is only not too long ago, you know. My eldest daughter's just gone into high school, and, you know, she got her period. here at my house, you know, and this is how close I am with her. Well, not so much at the moment, but we were, you know, like I can comfortably sit down with my daughter and explain to her what a period is, you know, right down to, you know, showing her how to put a pad in her pants and things like that, you know. Not many dads can say they do. I know my dad, for example, you know, with my sisters, he was, that's a girl thing, you know, like, the fuck, bro, she's a fucking child at the end of the day, you know.
Raising daughters, man, that was very normal for me, right?
Yeah, yeah, there you go, yeah.
To the point, I mean, look, at the end of the day, they're born female, that's their life, that's fine, you just got to work with what you got. So they're your daughters, you love them. We had like, it was actually my sister-in-law that prepared this as this sort of come of age, like a little zip, like a pencil case, like an emergency kit. I used to live in a car, right? So, you know, you get caught out or whatever the case is, and everything was just ready, right? But yeah, I mean, it wasn't a big deal in my household, and you know what? It's cool that you do that, and it's cool that if they need stuff, they can come to you. To the point, I ring them and say, "Hey, listen, what's a stockpile like at home? Is there anything you need while I'm shopping?" That's it.
Yeah, well, that's what I did. You know,
and what colour, with the wings, without the wings.
Awkward, like grabbing milk.
But it ain't.
Nah, mate, I went and made her up a little pack with, you know, all the little things in there that she needed.
Perfect.
Put in a school bag.
Believe what we're talking about, Braiden? Can you believe it? One day you sit on a podcast talking about this shit. This is part of being a man, brother. If you can't roll with the punches,
It's part of being a father.
It's part of being a father, brother.
Man.
Fucking
This
different.
this is a lot raw shit that no one talks about. And you know what? It's not your daughter's fault. It's not your daughter's fault. And that wasn't your ideal, but you just got to get on with it. They didn't choose to be born.
Doesn't need to be embarrassing for them. It's just what they are.
At all. It doesn't need to be embarrassing for us either.
Yeah.
But exactly, it's not a big deal, right? So, and
No, it's natural, brother. It's natural, and it comes from a parent, you know.
it's actually a way to connect too. Because I used to notice even as my daughters were coming of age, like, I mean, when they got sort of high school years, they kind of done their own thing. But like shower time of an evening, like they got pretty thick hair. I'd be drying their hair with a hairdryer. With the oil, the whole fucking lot, I actually found it.
Can I tell you something, man? Can I be honest?
Connection point,
Can I be honest? I loved blow drying my girl's hair.
I did too.
What it was, man. It was just fucking therapeutic, right?
Yeah, no, I've been there, done all
no,
that. Let's just,
no, it's cool though, right?
yeah,
And
definitely.
it's time that is. It does. It's a connection.
You know, and it's a thing. It's a thing too that they'll remember. You know.
You'd hope so, yeah.
Braiden, when I asked you that opening question, you answered it perfect because you've saved me about 20 other questions, which is really, really good, right? And so I want to, so obviously grew up in Tassie, that sort of background. Most kids end up from that going down the wrong path and to drugs and stuff like that. What was the first crime you committed? And how did you get on the path of drugs, and what are your lessons?
Right, there's a little bit of a backstory here, mate. The first time I was ever in trouble with the cops, there was and I'll say his name too because he's no longer a copper anymore as far as I know, but Senior Constable Kalug, right? He was a Claremont cop, and he knew me through my dad and through, it's a small suburb, you know, but I was brought up on dirt bikes, man. Like, I loved my dirt bikes, you know. I was always razzing around the streets on my dirt bike, sometimes no helmet, you know, just an absolute wild kid. And riding past his house and revving it out the front of his house just to get a chase happening, you know, like, just a kind of a kid, you know.
This is the cop we're talking about, yeah?
Yeah, he actually caught me. So I remember when I was, around about 15, Mum and Dad had already split, but Dad bought me my first car. It was an old VN Commodore. And obviously when Dad was out of the picture, like I said, I become the man of the house, and I'd steal the keys and piss off in this car and fucking do burnouts and all the bullshit, you know, thinking I was cool. And he got me one day. I wasn't even old enough to hold a learner's license. So old Kalugi, thank you very much, mate. But yeah, he got me, and it was only a slap on the wrist, but it also stopped me from being able to get my learner's license for a whole year. You know, that was the first time I ever was intercepted by police properly. But as far as drugs, mate, as soon as Dad left, Sorry, it was actually Dad was still around. I remember I had a puff on a joint there with a mate. You know, just started high school. It was a big thing. Oh, you didn't smoke weed. You weren't cool, you know. But I went home stoned off my fucking head one day, and first time ever being stoned. And I remember the old boy, and this was back to, mind you, and I'll make this apparent because smacking your kids back then, you know, when I was a kid, you know, copping a fucking boot up the arse or a slap around the ear hole, you know, it was normal, and it taught you a fucking lesson. Like,
honestly,
you know,
honestly, Brad, you want the truth, brother? There's fucking nothing wrong with that, in my opinion.
no, but these days it's looked down upon. You know what I mean? You don't hear of your kids, the kids copping hidings like I fucking did in the day. Let me tell you, my old lady would grab anything in arm's reach and belt me with it. You know, but yeah, I remember I went home stoned and oh fucking hell, that made me never want to touch weed again. I'll tell you, the old boy grabbed me by the fucking back of ear and booted me up the arse about 10 times. You know, all the way like the old school boot up the bum. And yeah, but like I said, it wasn't long after that they split. Like, I become the man of the house. So weed was in the picture very early, around the age of sort of 15, 16. Ecstasy.
That early? Far out.
Ecstasy.
I didn't have my first one till 24.
Dude, I haven't had one yet.
No, I was popping ecstasy at around 15, 16. It was huge in Tassie, you know.
Jesus.
Ecstasy and the old school speed, you know. The old Jackie.
I'm not condoning drugs, okay? But I'm going to say something here, right?
Play lunch.
Yeah. I'm a non-drinker, okay? I struggle to drink water, let alone anything. So one day someone said to me, just take this pill, right? Dude, I couldn't dance for shit, okay? I took this pill at 11:30 at night. I'm minding my own business on the side of the dance floor. Next thing you know, I noticed this force push me on the dance floor, and I was Michael Jackson on crack.
Hey, and how good did it feel in here?
Inhibition zero. All I do is get water, come back to the dance floor from 11:30 to 7:30 in the morning straight, okay? I get home and have a shower and go to bed. I couldn't get up. My back was gone. That, to me, was the best buzz in the world, right? And again, I'm not condoning drugs or alcohol, but if I had a choice between my kid taking an ecstasy tablet or drinking, I'd say an ecstasy tablet.
Yeah.
That's just my personal opinion, okay?
Yeah.
Or neither.
Well, mate, I quickly fell into, you know, like I said, that they were a big thing around those years, and we're talking 2007, 2008 type years.
Times.
Yeah, around the end of high school for me. I graduated year 10 in 08, so, but yeah, before I knew it, you know, like I said, weed was always a big thing in my life. So, mate, I moved out of home at 16. I won't say met my kid's mum because we actually went to school together, but she was a year older than me. But, you know, so around this time too, my little sister, she was only 4. My baby sister that I told you at the start, you know, the one the big gap between us. So she was diagnosed with a, I don't quote me, I don't know the actual terminology name behind it, but a big tumor that grew off her bladder, cancerous tumor. So long story short, at this stage, my mum was in jail. We were all with Dad, and Dad had gone through the family law system and everything by this stage, you know, and then gotten full custody of us. Mum was a criminal, a drug addict, and she was in jail. So she, yeah, well, I'll call her Bub. That's what we still call her, my little sister, Bub. She's been diagnosed with this tumor on her stomach. Well, they've rushed her in an tiny little emergency aeroplane from Hobart to Melbourne to the Royal Children's Hospital there, and they let Mum out on like compassionate grounds, I guess, to be over there with her daughter. And long story short, you know, she spent the next 2 years there in the Royal Children's Hospital. She made the front page of the Herald Sun to be the longest patient to be receiving chemotherapy for her age in history, you know. And so she made the front page. She also made the paper a few times over there. At the time, it was around the Kevin Rudd, Julia Gillard bullshit. Kevin Rudd literally went to the the actual ward to my little sister's room, and at the time, Mum's got a housing commission house back in Claremont, in Tassie there, and Kevin Rudd rang personally the Minister of Housing back in Tassie and said, take this family under your wing. We've got a very, very sick little girl over here. We'd been told she was going to die multiple times, wasn't going to make it, and this and that. But so that was a pretty special moment. That made the paper over there as well. Going back to so I'd got with the kid's mother, and obviously my family's now in Melbourne. I'm in Tassie alone. At 16 years old, got with the kid's mum, and we quickly sort of got our own place and just a little 2-bedroom, rental.
So when you say the kid's mum, who are you talking about?
My 2 elder daughters.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, so I have 2 elder daughters who I'm speaking about now.
Yep.
And I also have my little precious little Darcy too, my recent ex. So,
can I just go back to your little sister, and I'm after your opinion or something. So as you're talking, I'm listening and trying to work it all out. So your youngest one had stomach issues, right? So given that she grew up in a toxic home, that sort of challenging environment, and as I've said before, the word disease comes from the word dis-ease. Do you think there's something in that?
Well, you see, when she was born, Mum and Dad had split, so the house wasn't as toxic as in a domestic violence sense. More so, Mum and her drug fall. She's hit the drugs hard. So Mum, she was flip at the click of a switch. She was a mad, angry old lady.
Because it takes a lot for a woman to end up in jail, doesn't it? It takes a lot for a woman, didn't it?
Oh, mate, she'll hate me saying this, but she's done around 9 to 10 lagons in prison now. But on top of that, she's 6 years clean, lives here on the Gold Coast now with me, and not with me as such, but lives here on the Gold Coast. She's 6 years clean. She's a beautiful, beautiful woman these days. She's definitely lived it, but definitely came out on top.
What's Mum mean to you now?
Hey,
what's Mum mean to you now?
Everything. She's all I've got, brother. She's all I've got through this whole bullshit that I'm going through at the moment. She's my best friend.
Can I ask what happened to Bub? Did she pass, or the younger sister? Did she pass? Did she, or
she's still around?
She's still around. So she
She ended up spending 2 years there in Melbourne at the Children's Hospital, and they ended up getting rid of the tumour. So the whole 2 years was trying to shrink this tumour through radiation and through all the bullshit, and eventually got it down to the size that it was operatable on, and they got rid of it. They also took
I was hanging on tender hooks thinking, fuck, what happened? Yeah? You think child, 2 years chemo, and then in my mind I'm thinking, fuck, she can't be around. That's a miracle.
No,
that's amazing to hear that.
God bless Tonks. It means a lot to me that you're close to Mum. It's very special to me, and I'm
never ever thought. I'll tell you what though, mate. I never ever thought it'd be her. And I'll say this a lot, she got to the stage of her drug use in Tassie, to the point of, within the bottom 5 of the worst of the worst.
Far out.
She was bad.
I could sit there and talk to you for days, do a podcast forever. You pack that punch, which is, there's a lot to take from that, and we will do it more. I just want to help others, most importantly, given our niche experience. So quick background on your ex-partner and the lessons from all that, and then we're going to go into your new situation.
So ex-partner is in
the mother of your 2 kids. Yep.
The first one.
Yeah. So I was just about to get to that. Yeah. So we at the age of 16, we got this rental, this 2-bedroom rental. We was partying, popping ecstasy here and there, a bit of coke, or
16 years old.
No addictions, whatsoever.
Money for that, for the coke back in Tasmania.
So at that time too, I started an apprenticeship as a metal fabricator. She was the 2nd-year apprentice hairdresser. We had a pretty steady income. We was, mind you, mate, I always had a crop growing in the back too. So, which I speak I speak openly about.
I know how to ask the right questions, don't I? You know, you can, don't worry about your fabricator, don't worry about the hairdresser. I know what it costs.
There's still money in farming.
Yeah.
So always grown dope, man. You know, when you're from Tassie, every second bloke does it. You know, it's the best place in the country to grow weed. So always had that going, mate. So always had that, you know, every 8 to 10 weeks I'd have, you know, a nice chunk of cash come in type thing. But yeah, so, you know, before long, we'd moved out of that 2-bedroom place, and we'd got a nice 3-bedroom home, you know, still in the same suburb of Claremont. You know, fast forward through my sort of 18, 19, 20 years, I become a big ecstasy dealer. You know, I was known throughout all the nightclubs. I'd literally walk into a nightclub and have people lining up waiting to see me. You know, I got to that sort of level. One night, I remember I was in the nightclub. I've spoken about this publicly before, but I had a young bloke come tap me on the shoulder and turned around, and he was fucking. His eyes were like this, you know, like he was. And he's like, "Oh, I heard you've got the shit, bro. Can I get 10 off you?" You know, bro. I said, "Yeah, I'll meet you in the toilet." Met him in the toilet a couple of minutes later, and said, "Come in the cubicle." Got in the cubicle, the little fucker pulled a badge out. And, you know, and I was sort of like, I had a head on me, mate, like I said, a chip off the old man's shoulder. I had a head on me, like, what the fuck are you going to do with that? I'll shove that up your ass sort of type thing, you know. And he's like, "Mate, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. I'll let you walk out freely so nobody sort of knows what's happened, or I'll fucking handcuff you right here and, you know, embarrass the shit out of you," in other words. I was like, no worries. I walked out. We went to the station. It's at the middle of the night, mind you, middle of a Friday or a Saturday night where the town's popping. And got to the station. They strip searched me. They found 150 pills down my undies. They took them. They bailed me out, and I was just expecting maybe like a summons to appear in court in the mail. That's sort of how it works in Tassie. You don't get a court date on the night. Mate, I still to this day have never heard a word about it. I never got convicted. So you tell me what happened with the pills?
They had a great night.
I got a fair idea. I got a fair idea, and the reason why I'm smiling and laughing, I have to tell my cubicle story, because there's a certain individual sitting in this room here, which happens to be my producer, and we won't name him or expose him. But this is a funny story that I'm sure he's actually smirking as we speak. So I was minding my business on the side of the dance floor as usual, and this girl comes up to me. She goes, "You got any pills?" And I only had 1 or 2 from me. I wasn't doing anything with them. And I'm thinking, first of all, why would you come up to me like I got sus, yeah? So I go to her, "What do you do for a living?" I was checking her out. She goes, "I'm an actress." And I thought, bullshit, whatever. Every girl says I'm an actress. So I come to the toilet. So we go to the cubicle. I shut the door, and she goes to me, I said, "Oh, you're an actress, are you? What shows you on?" Whatever. She goes, I'm from Neighbours." So I won't mention her name. So anyway, I put my windscreen wipers on because I was fried, and I zoomed in on her. Yeah. And sure enough, it was her. But without makeup, doesn't look like her. Anyway.
Wow.
So I look up and there's my mate, who's my producer. He couldn't help himself. I was going to the cubicle with a girl. He's got all these fancy ideas, which I wasn't up to any of that. But the look on his face is like, you can't get away from him, right? Anyway, So she goes to me, "How much?" I said $50. She goes, "They're normally 30. I said, "They are, but you're an actress. So $50, thanks." So yeah, every time I see her on TV, I'll smile. But look, you know, as a dealer back then, how did it make you feel, and what would you tell the youth now, knowing what you know now?
Mate, how did it make me feel? When I got to the level that I got to, and it was a pretty like for Tasmania, you know, when you've got 1,000, you're getting rid of 1,000 pingers a week in Tassie, bro, you're doing all right. Like, you know what I mean? That's what it sort of got to. And like I said, I'm only a young kid still, you know, early 20s, if that. And I felt like a king. I had all the cash, I had all the toys, you know, I had boats, fucking turbo cars, full drives, dirt bikes, you name it, I had everything. And look, mate, if I could go back in time now I have the knowledge that I have now. Or if I could tell a young, a teenage, early 20s guy that's going down that path, the path I went down, there is no ending, no great ending to it. It's either, it'll only last so long before you either get busted, you either get fucking shot, you end up owing people money. So pretty much basically don't fucking do it, because there's no flash outcome in the end. You might have all this and that, but once you get caught, or worse, you go to jail or you get killed, there's no story to tell at the end of the day, is there?
Toxic.
Only a story like mine where it doesn't end great,
Very well explained. I'm going to add to that, right? If I agree with everything you've said, and this is what I'll tell myself as well, because I've been down that path. If you just focus on a proper, legitimate business, right? One that you can be... Yeah, rather than go down that path, what I could tell myself, if you could just focus all your energy on a proper, legitimate business, right? Put all that focus, time and energy and stress, because there's stress involved, as you know, man. It's not anyone can do it, right? Yeah. So rather than deal with that stress for a negative cause, if you focus it on the right path, it's a much better long-term sustainable thing. And then here's the other thing. When you're going down that path, I couldn't look my family and friends in the eye, man. I couldn't be out Saturday night doing what I'm doing and then rocking up to my uncle's house to have a barbecue and pretend.
No, you feel that weight.
That's what used to kill me, man. That I couldn't.
Guilt.
When you can't look people in the eye, then you're not living, man. You're actually developing the first sign of death.
100%. Definitely. 100%. And I was the exact same, especially... So if we fast forward a little bit, at the age of 23, so I'd been with my two elder daughters' mum for 7 years at this stage, We moved out of home together. I was 16 years old. She ended up pretty much turning into a mother figure to me, Like when I say that, right down to cooking and cleaning and doing my washing and all the bullshit, So at the age of 23, by this stage, I've become a father. So I become a father at the age of 19. Myself, beautiful Amali, she's drop dead gorgeous. She's the only child that looks just like her dad. And
where's she now?
He's with her up here in Queensland, with her mum and her partner, which I'll get into shortly. I've had them week on, week off for the majority of their lives, apart from when I've had my downfalls or been in jail, But yeah, so. And then again, at the age of 21, I will become a father again to my beautiful middle daughter, Harlow. She's going to be a supermodel. She's absolutely gorgeous little thing, But yeah, at the age of 23, mate, you'd think becoming a father, it would have settled me down a lot. I always had the weed growing in the background and always just had that. I knew I could make quick money. And I look back at it now, and it was a greed thing, if I'm completely honest. But yeah, at the age of 23, I remember I'd been out one night doing the usual, making money, hustling. I ended up back at this house party, which just so happened to be straight across the road from where we lived at the time. It was sort of the road. We lived on the downside, and these guys lived on the upside. So I was like in this house looking down at my fucking house, Still
didn't get it. Still didn't get it.
Nah, it would have been maybe...
Glenn's laughing. John's the best one out of all us here, mate. You want to be like him, yeah? Never been down that path at all. So he's going to struggle to understand what we're talking about,
Yeah, well, this is where my life spirals really bad, So yeah, I remember I was sitting in the lounge room with a bunch of fucking random people that had come back to this house party. There's a few chicks and there's a few fellas and a couple of mates, and they've pulled out this glass pipe, and I'm like 23, ice wasn't a thing in Tasmania, meth, it never heard of it. Like it was something you'd hear or see on a fucking documentary or something, it just wasn't known. anyway, they're passing this pipe around, you know, and I've come my turn. I didn't know what to fucking do. I just sucked on it, and I sucked all the rocks straight into my throat. I was like, everyone's laughing at me. I didn't even know you had to light the bottom of it or whatever, you know. It was all so new, but brother, from then on, the next, and I say this, you know, the next best part of a decade is pretty much a blur, bro.
Okay. A lot of people say that, man. A lot of people say that.
Yeah. Not a blur as such. I remember some very significant events that happened throughout it. But as far as reality as such, like, fuck, man, it's just a vicious cycle. Like,
How'd you kick it?
yeah. But I ended up getting addicted to this drug for the next 6 months, you know, and within this 6 months, I'd sold this, I'd sold that. You know, at the time too, the price of it, man, was like, made Coke look cheap, you know.
Toxie, I just want to ask a question which is relevant. It will help people. How did you know you were addicted? What was a moment? Because a lot of people don't
go without it. Couldn't go without it.
So you couldn't function without it.
No, but you've been kidding yourself at some point. No, I'm all good, or
good. It's everybody else's fault. Yeah, you know what I mean. Everybody, I'm the victim, 100%. You know what I mean? Yeah, definitely. And even up until recent relapses, that's what happens. You victim mode. Like, fucking wake up to yourself, dickhead. Like, but yeah. So it went off. I went on for about 6 months, and yeah, within that 6 months, I'd sold this, I'd sold that. I ended up with driving around an old dunger of a little Subaru Forester, you know, like, and lying, the lies I would tell, man, the fucking lies that I would tell to the kid's mother of why I couldn't pay rent this week, or, you know, well, she clicked on pretty quick, you know. She's gone through a bank statement of mine and seen that I'd been transferring this guy this much, you know, brought me unstuck. But not to mention, too, the come downs. So this drug wasn't known. It wasn't known that it was, like, there was no warning signs that what it does to you, the come downs, the broken families it brings, everything, you know. And yeah, she up and left me, bro. It was a click of her fingers. She took the kids, went to her parents, and I'd lost it, man. I fucking, like, and I didn't know what was happening to me. I was trying to come down off this drug that I'd been using every day for 6 months. And I didn't know that this is what it done to you. So, like, I'm just losing it. I remember
were you working at the time?
Oh, the job had already, a couple of months before I come unstuck, my job was nothing. I fucked the job, you know. It just wasn't important to me anymore. So that income had stopped, you know. Yeah, man, it's just everything revolves around that drug when you're on it. You know what I mean? It's yeah, it's fucking powerful, very, very powerful drug. But yeah,
So with your relapses now, right? Because you're older, you're a fully grown man now, and you've been through it. You understand more about yourself. Why are they still happening? Why, like, as in, you picked.
Yeah, I don't know what you're trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, we're working through this together. So you've picked your own brain. What do you say to yourself now? Like, when it's coming on, or you're getting the urge, or you're having a bad day, and what can you tell others about that?
Yeah, so look, it's always been my drug of choice, you know. I've never been addicted to anything else, like, apart from a fucking vape. Like, I've never been addicted to another drug, weed, speed, coke, nothing. It's never been, you know, just never tickled my fancy like meth did.
Do you believe addiction is a disease?
Sorry?
Do you believe addiction is a disease?
No, I don't.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
That's a big thing. It ain't a disease, bro, because I've never been to a rehab. I've never been to a detox. I've gotten clean for years and years on end, purely through willpower, you know? So I don't believe it's a disease.
I agree, mate.
Yeah, a disease has, you know, diseases have cures. Addiction is just it's a choice, if you ask me. And a lot of people listening will probably disagree with that, but fuck it, you can believe what you want. That's just my opinion.
Takes a lot of strength to say that, brother. It takes a lot of strength to say that.
Choice or coping mechanism?
Yeah.
You know, it's still the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah?
definitely a coping
Yeah.
mechanism. And I only,
An out.
like, you know, unfortunately, I'm like 3 weeks clean from it again now, you know. After all the bullshit that's been happening in my life recently, I relapsed again, you know. And when I say relapse, I'm back on it, not heavy, but for like a couple of months, you know, maybe 6 to 8 weeks, I used for again.
That's when I actually reached out to you. That's when I reached out to you. I saw a video.
Yeah, I was high when I was on the phone to you.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
I figured that, but I didn't care. I didn't care. You know what? I'm just gonna have a chat to him, man. I made a promise years ago, brother. If ever someone's asking or if I'm feeling it, I'm gonna ring up and do my bit, man.
Yeah, and you did, bro, and it hit me at the perfect time. My drug mind got a little bit sus on you there for a minute, and then I realised you're a good lad.
Look,
you know?
man,
Like,
you know, I love talking to people like you because we say how it is. And I'll tell you what I've learnt recently about my past. If you ask me back, see, I used to think like, I didn't think I was escaping stuff back then, right? So I got a new missus now, and why don't I have the urge to go out and party like I used to? Obviously, I'm a little bit older, but it's not just that. There are people in their 40s and 50s still running them. It's because I feel whole. I feel whole when I'm in the...
and that's what it is,
Yeah,
bro.
when in my past life, I wasn't feeling wholesome, wasn't true to myself, man. I wasn't living in my truth. So many reasons why people go down that path, and you're gonna make mistakes, man. You're gonna do the wrong things and all that. Just don't make mistakes.
Like Jonesy just mentioned before, a coping mechanism. You know, I have only ever since, you know, coming off it. So long story short, it got to the stage where I ended up in jail. You know, a whole bunch of shit happened before jail, but I ended up in jail. I went to jail with a partner that at the time was a convicted armed robber, a heavy intravenous user, and so was I. And it landed me in jail. Long story short, you know.
What was the first day of jail like for you? Like, what were you saying to yourself?
Oh, bro, like I said, coming from the chip off the old boy's shoulder, mate, and I was boned out. You know, I'm a big guy. I'm 6'5".
Far out.
I got down to 68 kilos, man. Like at 6'5", I was literally a walking skeleton.
Yeah,
you know,
skin him.
You know, I comfortably sit at about 90, 95, you know, 100 if I'm looking good, sort of thing. So that's fuck, man. I was drawn in the face, but I always had this. You know, I've always got a fucking staunch heart. I like to believe I'm staunch at heart. You know, and yeah, man. So I spent a week in the Hobart Remand Centre, which is sort of joined to the courthouse in the CBD there. Spent a week there. That's like a supermax prison on its own. You know, you're only allowed out an hour a day for a bit of fresh air, and you're just locked in your cell for 23 hours every day. You know, watching the TV this fucking big, like. But and then they come in one morning and they're like, Tonks, pack your stuff. You're going, and people from Tassie will understand this, but you're going over the river. So over the river means you're going to Risdon prison. Like, and I'm thinking, oh fuck. But I remember just before I got locked up, Dad saying to me, you know, because, like I said, a bit of a backstory from this. I ended up part of a motorcycle club.
Prison to you was no big deal because you had a certain mindset, which obviously served you well. So you've touched briefly on your previous relationships. You still see your kids there. You're still in touch with their mother, which is a great thing. I commend you for that. You spoke about. Now, I want to now get to the most important part of all this is your current situation. That's and how we help others with that journey, the messages and all the trials and tribulations that come with that. So, currently, you have a daughter that is how old?
2.5.
2.5. What was her name again?
Darcy.
Darcy, beautiful. So, you're currently isolated or alienated from Darcy. Is that right?
Mate, yeah. And not by law either. It's I'm legally allowed to see her, have her, but the child protection system up here is fucking. I don't even have the word for it.
I've been
You know
there.
what I mean?
I've been there.
Pieces of shit.
Yeah.
So she's in the same state as you, yeah? So she's close, bro.
So,
Yeah, okay.
So
my current situation, obviously, like I mentioned at the beginning, I'm still heavily involved in the current lawsuit. So I ended up. So yeah, my little girl was. So it's take it back. We split. Her mother relocated to another town. 3 hours away from me. Which was a women's refuge. And we were still seeing each other. We were still handballing Darcy back and forth between us. And then it just come one time where I was just completely blocked on all platforms with no idea what the fuck's gone on. I'd witnessed throughout our 5-year relationship, I'd witnessed her mother being, how do I say this, a lover of alcohol. So I'd witnessed a little bit of neglection and stuff over the years, and obviously me being there helped. I was always back up. I always would take care of our daughter when her mother would have blackouts. But so I've got that in the back of my mind, neglection. But then, come one time after, I would speak to them on a nightly basis, just on a video call to say good night to Darcy and whatnot every night. That was our thing. Next thing I know, I'm completely blocked on all platforms with no reason, nothing, just left with a whole bunch of confusion. The last time I spoke with her mum she was crying and said that they'd taken her. I was like, who the fuck taken who? What's going on? She hung the phone up on me. A couple of hours went by. I called back and she was intoxicated and heavily under the influence of prescription drugs. And she said, I'm only joking. I was only joking. So I sort of was just like, fuck you. You really tricked me into thinking that our daughter had been taken. So I blocked her then. And 3 days went by, and within that 3 days, something grew inside my belly, like a weight of intuition that I cannot even explain into words. But something in me just said something's not right. So I got up one morning with that feeling, and I was in tears. I was just like, I knew, just from a father's instinct, I knew something wasn't right. So I rang my mum. I rang my dad. I asked for their advice. What should I do? And, I ended up coming to the conclusion of, fuck it, I'm just going to call CPS, the branch in this town where she's staying, and just to check up, just to tell them what had happened, what the last words that I'd gotten from the mother. Well, to my surprise, I get on the phone and they say, Mr. Tonks, we're extremely sorry to inform you, but we've actually had Darcy in our care for the last 4 days under the care of a foster family. And mate, I'm telling you now, I dropped. I hit the floor in the most horrific heartache I've ever felt in my life. Just to think of how attached she is to me and her mother. That alone hurt, knowing that she's with a bunch of strangers. They then went on to tell me on the phone that, she's struggling to eat. She won't sleep. She's, oh man. And I was just hysterical. I threw my phone across the lounge room and then to my surprise, after 5 days, she was miraculously put back with her mother. And it hasn't been until recently that I've actually known how. And that was on the conditions that she breached me. And obviously went under the supervision of a psychiatrist and a psychologist and all the rest, and quit her drinking. So she got our daughter back, but since then they've vanished. They've left the state.
Can I ask a question? I'm really
my surprise.
I'm really
Next
confused.
thing, I have my front door kicked in, and the police come in and physically. Like, mate, I've been to jail. I've been around some bad motherfuckers in my life and watched some seen some pretty horrific things. But the way these police officers treated me, it was as if I'd murdered somebody. They threw me over this couch, Like, one of them had their knee in my head and they fucking handcuffed me up. And, you know, I live in an apartment block. They've carried me down the stairs, like feet won't even touch on the floor. You know, they've carried me, 3 of them. They carried me along the front of our complex in front of all the neighbours, you know, absolutely embarrassed the shit out of me, threw me in a paddy wagon and take me to the cop shop. And their excuse was a fail to appear to court. Like, bullshit. I got there, they took my phone off me, they locked me up with a whole list of, I think there was a coercive control charge, which was put out into the media. You know, me being a public figure here in Queensland, running a podcast, a popular podcast, they used that against me. They, you know, there was big headlines in the media here, Gold Coast podcaster charged with coercive control facing 14 years prison. And so I had no idea about this, you know. So I'm locked up for the night. I appear in court the next morning, barefoot in a singlet, like, you know, like I'd just been fucking dragged out of a drain, you know. And yeah, and I was bailed, only to come home here, and I was here for about 10 minutes. And my housemate come through the door and he's like, bro, have you seen the media? You're all over the media that you're looking at 14 years jail and this and that. And I was like, what? Like, what? You know, and I ended up reading the article, and this fucking article, man, does not even mention that we have a daughter. It just makes me look like I'm this controlling, obsessive, compulsive ex-partner that has tried to track her location down and this and that, and a whole bunch of rubbish that completely tarnish my name, even to this day. You know, like, I'll get recognised a lot on the street just for being who I am, the content I share, my podcast, etc. I still get recognised, but it ain't in a nice way. You know, it's like,
how do you
can tell that.
What do you say to yourself when that happens to you? When you can feel that energy?
I just swallow it, bro. I just swallow it, because if I do anything, mate, I'm locked up instantly. Do you know what I mean? The old me would be standing up. I don't give a fuck if there's 10 of you. Stand up, he's got a fucking problem. You know what I mean? That's the usual me. But I can't, mate. I just got to sit there and fucking wear it, you know?
It's a very important
absolutely
thing.
Wrong, because, like I said, in this article, and mind you, there'll be a new article come out soon, no doubt, when I do finally hit sentence day. But, yeah, this article, man, like, this fucking journalist absolutely tarnished my name, you know? He ruined my business. I've had all my social medias all restricted. Nothing's been monetized anymore. That nothing's being recommended to new audiences. So my social medias have gone bus, you know. But yeah, so they'd taken my phone, okay, and so I got out that day, found out that I was in the media. By that night, bang, the cops have come through the door again and arrested me again. So this is twice in 2 days that I'm arrested and locked up. This time, they'd gone through my phone and seen all our conversations over a 3-month period. 3 months being between the start of November and the start of February, this is where it all sort of happened. I'm going to be very careful what I say here, but yeah, I ended up being, in total, charged with coercive control ×1, breach of DVO ×23, and a stalking charge. Now, the stalking, that doesn't sound good on its own. Like, I ain't no fucking stalker.
I was just going to say, Tonksy,
stalking charge, the nature of that charge was because over the period, that 2-week period where I found out my daughter was put into state care, I fucking called day and night. Happened to be around about 1,200 times I called over a 2-week period. I wasn't calling, and let me make this fucking clear, I wasn't calling to be a stalker ex-partner. I was calling because there is nobody on this fucking planet that was looking for my little girl who's now
Tonksy, as a father myself, I completely believe you. Just to be clear, just to help people out.
That's
so your daughter is mentioned on the intervention, and she's a protected person on the intervention order, your daughter?
No.
She wasn't. Okay, cool. So coercive control is not an easy thing to prove, and the most serious charge of that is stalking, right? And I want to ask you a question. Do you think we have a domestic violence problem in Australia, or do you think that word is gross?
Oh, majorly, and especially us men. Women, mate, I could call up, and say that I'm being coercive controlled, mate. It just gets swept under the rug. But on the other hand, in her case, look at me, mate. Like I was a very popular influencer throughout social media, with a pretty heavy following. And, my message on social media is a positive message. I push a positive message. I'm raw. I'm authentic. I say shit people don't like to fucking hear. And that's been tarnished. And now I'm all of a sudden this, stalker fucking obsessive ex-boyfriend, which I'm far from.
I'll simplify it for you. I'm sure you'll agree with this. When a woman calls to a police station to report a breach, she gets greeted by what I call the special operations group, okay? When we call to report a breach, all of a sudden that same police station magically becomes an Indian call center. I'm sorry, hello, I can't hear you. Bang. Right? What we're talking about here is real lived experience. What Tonksy and I are doing, and Johnny, is showing you what the other half looks like, what the stuff that doesn't get the airtime. And in my personal opinion, we do not have a domestic violence problem in Australia. We have what's called a violence problem in Australia. And the number one victims of violence are actually men, right? Just because men are getting hurt in murder and crime doesn't make it right. And when men are affected by violence, it creates trauma, intergenerational trauma, and that's what leads to trauma and violence at home. So if you want to talk about which sex is mostly affected by violence, okay, because it's still violence, domestic violence or violence outside the home, it's still violence. But I find it ironic that men, we don't count for anything in society anymore. So a real woman will understand what I'm saying. And let me tell you this, men take care of their business, males do the shitness, okay? Real men respect women more than anything. Yes, we went down the wrong path and all that when we were younger, but guess what? We're here now and we're giving back. And I'll tell you now.
To add something on the end of that, Chad, sorry. By all means, here in Queensland, the domestic violence laws are heavier than anywhere in the country, okay? And rightfully so, because there has been some horrific, and I mean horrific, cases happen here in Queensland where women have been butchered up and murdered, and, there's been laws put in place. So by all means, I 100% totally back these laws.
Support.
But I feel there needs to be an inquest into treating each case by the individual, not as a whole. Like I said, I was arrested here, man, like I was a murderer,
And this is exactly
when literally,
when you tarnish everyone the same brush, when your weapon of choice is a net and it's not surgical, it actually does more destruction to society. It actually destroys more lives than it saves lives. And that's what leads to men's suicide, because that's partly or a major cause in men's suicide. Because what happens is this, there's a clear unbiased or unbiased towards males in the family law court system, which filters down to an isolation, dark thoughts, just about zero resources for men. So I'm going to be very clear about what you said. I completely think that everyone needs to be protected. Men and women are equal. We need to be protected equally. And I'll tell you now, that's exactly our qualm. The qualm is that the same level of respect and resources that are thrown to protect women are not seen by men, right? And not felt by men, and that's what causes frustration. So if we're going to do this, we need to do this properly, and we need to talk about it as a community, and we need to work together, right? Because I'll tell you now, like I said, I feel your frustration. I know what it does. I want to talk about another thing as well, which is very important to help others. You're a staunch guy. You've been there and done that. I'm sure you struggle with alienation, right? Describe that quickly, 2 seconds, and why is it so hard? And we're running out of time here, Tonksy, and we will do this again, I promise you. I want to leave people with stuff that's very raw to you, and that still hurts you and all that. Yeah, why is alienation so hard? What's your advice?
So put it this way, okay? When my recent daughter was born, and I say this with no hate or nothing towards her mother whatsoever, but she was the furthest from a maternal woman as possible. It wasn't her fault. She just didn't grow up around babies. Me, I'd been a father for 12 years at that stage. Not to mention I had a baby sister. I've had babies in my life, and I like to think that I have a huge maternalness to me, you know. Right, I taught her how to hold a newborn baby. I taught her how to change a bum. I taught her how to, burp a baby and even latch to the boob, you know. In saying that, I was extremely, extremely involved in my little girl's life from day one, you know, and overly protective, you know. Here I am, you know, I'm 30 years old. I've just had another child, and you know, in my eyes, I've got a second chance to do this right this time. My drug days are out the window, you know. So having her taken away and me having no power whatsoever, only memories of seeing neglection and stuff where I was there to save her. Alienation doesn't even fucking touch the surface of how it's made me feel. Do you know what I mean? I can't just, it makes me emotional, man. You know, I can't describe in words the feeling that it gives a man when you've been so close with that child, when that child has relied on you since day one. I don't have the words. I don't have the vocabulary to put it together exactly what it does to a man. Talking of suicide, you know, the statistics say that just from parental alienation, 28 men a week here in Australia knock themselves. That's 4 men a day.
What I'm talking about. Exactly what I'm talking about, Tonks. I'm so glad you mentioned that. That's exactly what I was getting to, right? That no one wants to talk about. So if you talk about which sex is overly affected by domestic violence, right? It's males by far. But I want to leave you with this, Tonksy, and it's a very powerful thing I'm about to ask you. You said there's no words to describe parental alienation. I want you to now send a little message to Darcy, and we're going to finish with these beautiful words, brother. I know this is right up your alley. And this is in the back of your mind. You actually got all the fathers on the back of your shoulders right now that would love to be in your position, telling their child exactly how much you love them and what they mean to you, brother. I want to finish with this.
Darling, you know how much Daddy loves you. I love you more than words will ever be able to describe. There hasn't been one day, whether Dad's gone off the rails or not, there has not been one single day that I have not loved you any less or that I have not fought for you. I am here. I'll always be here. I've made some beautiful videos of us together across my social medias that'll be online forever, that you will be able to see and watch one day and be able to feel exactly how hard and how deeply I love you and how hard I tried, darling. I love you more than anything, and you'll always be my little girl, my little Darcy girl.
Toxie, if I can give you a hug, mate, I would, but I'm sure you can feel what we're trying to do here, brother. And believe me, like I said to you, man, we didn't grow up wanting this. Yeah, we're here now, and we're doing what we can. And to anyone that I hope anyone that is alienating their child as a weapon of choice can really look into this and really ask yourselves the cold, hard questions as to why you're doing it. Because I'll tell you now, believe me, you know, one thing I've learned, I'll finish with this, having kids is not easy, right? Especially being a single dad, whatever. But I'll tell you now, the greatest gift I've ever had, Darcy, is not when things go great with my kids. No. When I end up ill in hospital, I have an army around me. Now, to any parent that chooses to alienate their child from another parent, I guarantee you, when your day comes, you're not going to have an army around you. Believe me.
And karma is fucking real.
The universal law it got me, mate. It got me a beauty, and I see very well with my karma, and I accepted my karma, and that's why I'm giving back. As God is my witness, we know karma is real. Tonksy, I want to thank you personally, mate, for giving us this moment in the sun. Jonesy, anything you want to?
The only thing I want to just call out on this, and I mean, we've heard some stuff along this podcast. Imagine a world where the legal systems actually start to get shit right. Okay? Like we all know, right?
You're 100%
Yeah.
right, Jonesy, and I back you 100% there.
Yeah. But this is what, and then here we are talking about another one today.
We
Yeah?
can't change the league
Anyway.
system. We can change our choices,
cool.
and we can unite together as a team. And I'll tell you, we can do. I keep forgetting to ask people, if you find value in what we're doing between myself, John, and Tonksy, please like, subscribe, and share. Because I'll tell you now, this is not about me, not about Tonksy, not about you. You may not have a son, you may not have a daughter, but one day you're going to know someone's going to be affected by this, right? If you do whatever you can.
We all do.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
do.
Just because it's your son and your daughter doesn't mean I can't help, man. That's life, right? So strong streets, strong communities, strong families, strong nation. And that's what we're trying to do, brother. We're trying to right the wrongs. Tonksy, thank you very much for being our guest today. And stay in touch. Yeah, we'll do it again.
Definitely. Appreciate you, fellas. Legends.
Thanks, brother.